Hey, hi, howdy, and hello. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of LOZ D&D, where I compare Legend of Zelda items, tools, gear, equipment, abilities, weapon, armor, and skills to D&D items. In this video, I'm going to be going over Link's item inventory from Zelda 2 Adventure of Link, aka the Hero of Hyrule, who is in fact the same Link from Zelda 1, but a few years older. You know, mature, aged, grown, well seasoned, an adventurer who knows a thing or two. This video will be a two-parter because the last one was over 45 minutes long, and now I can actually separate the items into organized parts, sections, and categories. With that said, let's jump right into the backstory before we talk about the items Link gets on this adventure. Well, we are familiar with the Zelda backstory lore, but in this game, well, buckle up, because this one is long, much like the rest of the series. The story starts off with Link, years later after the events of his first adventure, talking with Impa about a strange mark on the back of his hand that appeared upon him turning 16. Impa takes Link to the North Tower of the castle, where she has Link open the door, and behind it is a young woman sleeping, and she informs Link that that is Zelda, but not this one from Zelda 1. She is another Zelda who was put into a deep sleep and has not woken yet. Yes, apparently there are two Zeldas, and this one, not this one, had a brother who ruled over the kingdom of Hyrule. Impa tells Link the story that had been passed down from her family, that the king had two children, and before his death the king decided to give the Triforce of Power to his son, the prince, the Triforce of Wisdom to Zelda, this one, not this one, and the Triforce of Courage to the one who was destined for it, and hid it away. As you may have guessed, when the prince learned he wasn't getting all three of those magical golden Doritos, this resulted the prince to be outraged, and being a spoiled brat, he had tried to find it only to end up with nothing. A wizard had told the prince that his sister knew the location, and the prince tried to force Zelda, this one not this one, to give up the location of the Triforce of Courage that their father had entrusted with her. Unfortunately for the prince, Zelda, this one not this one, was no snitch, and he punished Hyrule for it like a mad tyrant. The wrathful wizard had cast a spell to put her in a never-ending sleep, and for some reason the spell was so powerful the wizard died? And the prince felt regret. Yeah, way too late, dude. So he took her to the North Tower and made a law decreeing that every royal princess born would be named Zelda. And now we jump a couple of centuries. After Link mashes the A button to get through Impa's dialogue, she lets Link know that in order to wake her up, he needs to find the Triforce of Courage in order to complete the full Triforce. And my guess is either wish her awake or maybe break the spell. It's not very clear. Anyhow, that's where we begin the adventure, in the room that Zelda, this one, the one right there, is sleeping, not this one. Which is extremely confusing. Okay, in any case, moving on. Let's begin this list with the inventory items. Those being the items Link uses or equips a lot during his adventures. Starting this list off is the first item that, surprise surprise, every single Link has, even these guys. The CDI and TV show Link. Ugh.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Nope, don't you dare.
I just wonder what Ganon's up to.
Back, I say, back to the hole of which you came. Sorry about that. Well, speaking of holes, Link has had a lot of gear and equipment in his pockets that are basically the equivalent of a weapons depot. I did compare his pockets to the bag of holding, which seems more reasonable than the portable hold. He can carry many weapons, tools, and items that he collects on his adventure. The portable hole is a pocket dimension on a foldable cloth that has a 6-foot diameter circumference, and the hole is 10 feet deep when unfolded and placed on a flat, solid surface. It takes a full action to unfold it and another full action to refold it. However, it does seem reasonable to have his pockets be more akin to the bag of holding rather than the portable hole. This item has different levels which, depending on its carrying capacity, range from a level 1 up to level 4. And of course, the higher the level, the more it costs, the carrying capacity, the amount of space, and the weight of the bag itself, but Link can carry it easily with little to no problem. He is strong after all, and in one of MatPat's videos, he does explain how strong Link is. Link in the description. But when it comes to the price, some of the Links wouldn't be able to afford it, especially with some of their money back capacity. Both Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild Links could afford it, but unfortunately not the other Links. Sorry. Anywho, here's the list of bag of holding types we have. Type 1, the weight of the bag itself, 15 pounds. How much it can hold, 250 pounds. The cubic space, 30 cubic feet, and the total cost, 2,500 gold pieces. Type 2, weight of the bag, 25 pounds. How much it can carry, 500, cubic space, 70 cubic feet, and the cost, 5,000 gold pieces. Type 3, weight of the bag itself, 35 pounds. How much the bag can carry, 1,000 pounds. Space within the bag, 150 cubic feet, and the price, 7,400 gold pieces. And lastly, Type 4, the weight of the bag itself, 60 pounds. How much it can carry, 1,500 pounds. The space, 250 cubic feet, and the price, 10,000 gold pieces. Now onto the next list. There are 3 items that Link has on him at the very start of the game that he carries over from Zelda 1. Unfortunately, I did not mention one of them in the previous video because I did not realize it at the time, but I'll mention it now. That first item would be his clothes or tunic. Yeah, weird, but it makes sense once we get into later games, but for now, let's get back on track. Link, from what we can tell, wears a hat, an undershirt, a very long shirt, a belt, and boots. Not really sure on the socks. They don't seem to be specially unique, so they may be more akin to common D&D clothes or traveling clothes, especially since Link does travel in them. They average at 2 gold pieces, weigh 4 pounds, and usually comprise of a set of clothes consisting of boots, a wool skirt or breeches, a sturdy belt, a shirt, perhaps with a vest or jacket, and a cloak with a hood. Alrighty, now that I got that out of the way, let's talk about the next 2 items that he has from his previous journey, his magical sword and magical shield. The magical shield can protect Link from projectiles, which is extremely helpful, especially in this game, and later on can deflect spells and projectiles with combination of the reflect spell. Now the shield that best equates to this defense is the Spell Guard shield. For those who think defense is the best offense, this is that shield, but it will cost you 5,000 gold pieces to be exact, so not very cheap whatsoever. But to help prove how good the shield is, it gives you advantage on saving throws against spells, disadvantage on spell attacks made against you, and of course gives you +2 on AC. Moving on to the magical sword. Not as powerful as the Master Sword, but it's a good sword nonetheless. In Zelda 1, it can be found in the graveyard but you do need 12 hearts to obtain it, which is 1 heart less when you're getting the Master Sword in Breath of the Wild, which is a very neat comparison. And at full health, it can shoot sword beams, but it can also be used to pick up items from killed enemies, which is extremely useful. So when thinking of a D&D sword that can be best equal to this powerful weapon, like before, I sadly could only think of the longsword. It was the only thing that made sense at the time, so yeah. The cost of the longsword is 15 gold pieces and does 1d8 slashing damage, but due to it being a versatile weapon, it can also do 1d10 instead. Okay, so there is a comparison for the sword beam ability. Yes, there is. And I did find it. The sword beam ability lets you shoot a beam-like projectile that resembles more of a slashing motion. It will let you do damage, but you have to have full hearts in order to use it. But when you take damage, the power is gone, but when you heal to full health again, the ability is active. Now, the D&D equivalent is the Power Beam. It is a cantrip with a range of 60 feet and hits 1d8. At level 5, you can add your spellcasting modifier, and at levels 11 and 17, you can add an extra 1d8, each increasing the damage. Moving on. Usable items are always needed in the Zelda series. So let's go over the items that have a purpose, whether it's a one-time use or kind of the whole point of the item to be used multiple times throughout the adventure. Okay, so the first 4 items are more of a technicality, as well you technically have them at the very start of the game. Those being the 6 crystals, a scroll, a box that holds these 2 items, and a map. Impa gives Link a box with a scroll with instructions, but the words and letters are not legible to anyone but the chosen one of the Triforce. The next items are the 6 crystals that have to be taken to the 6 palaces and placed on the foreheads of 6 statues in those palaces. Once all have been placed, the last palace, the Great Palace, where the Triforce of Courage is located, will be revealed. And lastly, the box that both these items were stored in, that Impa's family had set aside for the fabled hero / chosen person of prophecy. Now, I wasn't entirely sure if the crystals were specifically special other than being key items needing to complete the game, so I just looked for crystals in general rather as a specific type, such as gemstones. So crystals in D&D are an arcane focus item or spell casting. Crystals can vary in color, but they usually weigh about a pound and on average cost 10 gold pieces. On the cheaper end, they cost 8 gold pieces, and on the more expensive side, 20 gold pieces, which I'm sure the king used as their very powerful items. The scroll for D&D would most likely be the spell scroll, especially since the words and letters are magically ciphered, but a wielder of magic could read it. A spell scroll's cost varies from common cantrips to level 9 legendary, but they usually weigh a pound due to the case the scroll would have most likely have been in. That in mind, here's a chart of different stats, costs, and rare types of spell scroll. Let's start off this chart with the first 2 spell levels, the cantrip and the first spell level. Both are common and have the same DC levels, 13, and the attack bonuses of +5. The next 2 spell levels, second and third, are both uncommon. However, the second spell level has a DC save of 13 and attack bonus of +5, while the third spell level has a DC save of 15 and the attack bonus is +7. After that, 4th and 5th level, they are both rare and the save DC is 15 and attack bonus of +7 for the 4th, but for the 5th, DC save is 17 while the attack bonus is +9. The next 3 spell levels, 6th, 7th, and 8th spell levels, are similar in that they are very rare, with the 6th being a 17 for DC save and attack bonus of +9, while both the 7th and 8th have the same save DC of 18 and attack bonus of +10. Then we have the Mac Daddy of them all, the 9th spell level, which is legendary, with a DC save of 19 and attack bonus of +11. And second to the last is the box that both the crystal and scroll were most likely kept in. Most likely in the D&D equivalent would have been an alms box made of wood, costing 1 gold piece, and weighing about a pound. Lastly, we have the map. Maps are a staple in the Zelda series. They help Link traverse all over Hyrule, Termina, Lorule, Koholint, and other areas in the Zelda world. In Zelda 2, there isn't much of a map, just the overworld map, and that's it. You use the overworld map to travel all over Hyrule with little to no directions, so you're basically lost for most of the game. However, unlike the Zelda 2 map, the D&D map is a lot more helpful. A map in D&D gives you an automatic success on any wisdom survival checks when on the road, or advantage on a wisdom survival check in the wilderness. A map is pretty large, which may give the reason why it weighs 2 pounds, and because it has to be well detailed, the price for a map like this costs 50 gold pieces. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the very first item that you actually get in the game. The first item that you obtain in the game is the candle, which lets you light up dark areas, especially in caves and temples, which are basically the main areas you travel to for other items and resources. It can be located in the Parappa Palace after defeating the Iron Knuckle. So when finding a D&D item to compare the candle to, what I found was a normal candle. Because unlike both the candles in Zelda 1, this one only lights up areas and doesn't actually set everything else on fire, including yourself. With that said, a normal candle costs 1 copper piece, weighs about half a pound, and burns for an hour, and lights a radius of 5 feet, and additional 5 feet of dim light. Next item on the list is the flute, which can be found in the Palace of the Sea, and it has 2 functions in this game. The first being it clears the river demon from the road leading to the southeast Hyrule south of the town of Nabooru. The second function is it reveals Three-Eyed Rock Palace at Three-Eyed Rock. Now, when looking for a wind instrument item in D&D, I could only find a normal flute. This item is a 1 pound instrument that can be made of wood or metal, and it only costs 2 gold pieces. Now, let's talk about a glove that is quite handy. The Handy Glove. It's quite useful as with Link's sword, it allows you to break objects that block passages or paths to new areas. With the glove in combination of 2 attacks, the downward thrust and jump thrust, it can break rocks and boulders that block Link's way. Link can find this item in the Mindoro Palace. So it was quite difficult finding a D&D glove, but I did find one. The Gloves of Epic Dexterity. With the gloves, the wearer adds an enhancement boost of +8 to your dexterity score or higher, but at a cost of 640,000 gold pieces, or +10, 1 million gold pieces, or for +12, 1,440,000 gold pieces. Now, I couldn't find the weight, so I probably guessed at best they probably weigh a pound, maybe 2 each. Now, you would actually need to have the prerequisite of Caster level 20, but it would actually be worth it. Guys, it's that time. What time? It's hammer time!
Hammer time!
The hammer is a recurring item, and it does what the others do. smashes things, and destroys objects. And in this case, it's no different as it destroys boulders and trees, blocking caverns, paths, and roadways. With that said, it can be found in the deepest caverns of Death Mountain. Now, seeing how the hammer is not magical, in D&D, it was easy to compare it to a warhammer. The warhammer is a melee weapon, not that melee. A melee weapon that costs 15 gold pieces, weighs a shocking 2 pounds, and if you're proficient with martial weapons, you can add your proficiency bonus to attack rolls, and it being a single-handed weapon, it can do 1d8 bludgeoning damage, or because it's also a versatile weapon, it can also do 1d10 instead. Okay guys, strap on your boots, tighten your laces, we're going on an adventure and we're pulling a Jesus. In this game, the boots Link gets can be found in the Maze Island Palace, and when obtained, it grants you the ability to cross certain bodies of water in order to get to the third heart container and to reach the palace on the sea. Now in D&D, there are items and spells that allow you to walk on water, and it was hard looking specifically for boots that allow you to walk on water, but I did find it. The Boots of Water Walking. They are a pair of blue fabric with decorative green fins on the side, and while wearing them, cast the spell Water Walk. But the effects end when you get knocked prone, so be careful. They cost about 100 gold pieces and weigh about half a pound. Unfurl the mainmast, get ready to sail! I'd say ahoy mateys, but the raft isn't a pirate ship. It's just a couple of wooden poles or beams strapped together to make a floating pallet. It can be found in the Island Palace, which allows you to travel to eastern Hyrule to the harbor town of Amino. Sadly, this is the one and only use of the raft, so basically it's just a portable bridge, but let's see what the D&D raft is like. Jeez, this sucker's 100 gold pieces! So it's definitely a mini boat, especially at that price. It has an AC of 9, 30 HP, and has a ramming speed attack of 1d8. Full speed ahead indeed! Moving on. This next item is a one-for-all door use. The Magical Key. It allows you to open every door in a dungeon without using it up, just like the Magical Key in Zelda 1. It can be found in the hidden town of Kasuko, but you must cast the spell, which will cause a statue to appear, and this item is very important as it is required in order to complete the Three-Eyed Rock Palace. So with that in mind, I'm pretty sure people know that most janitors have a master key that gives them access to all doors in a building. Well, in D&D, the skeleton key functions pretty much the same way as the magical key, letting you open any lock without needing to do any skill checks, and even doors without locks, causing it to cast the knock spell. The skeleton key is very valuable and costs 400 gold pieces and weighs about half a pound. Next up, the cross. In different games, it's a usable item that not only lets you ward off evil, deter or even kill vampires, but does a bunch of other holy stuff. In this case, it for some reason functions more as a black light to detect invisible monsters. The cross lets Link see purple and blue moas that are normally invisible. It's located in the Three-Eyed Rock Palace, but Link must defeat Rabonak, this being the second time, as the first time would be at the end of the Maze Palace Island. So what D&D item can you equate to this unique tool? That would be the Gem of Seeing. It allows the user to see through the gem as if the true seeing spell were being cast. It has 3 charges that allows you to see through it for 10 minutes and up to 120 feet out. Now to recharge it, at dawn you need to roll a 1d3 daily. However, this item will cost you 75,000 gold pieces to be exact and weighs 1 pound. Alright, here we go. The last but not least in the inventory item category, the bottle. Backup bottles are always needed, even though in this game you technically only use them and don't actually keep them. But in later games in the series, bottles are a rarity as they are quite limited and the amount you get is up to 4 throughout the whole game. Despite the fact that the Gerudo Desert has nothing but sand to make more. But that's neither here nor there. You get several items that are in bottles or jars, but sadly you don't actually get to keep the empty bottles. So what does the D&D Handy Dandy Handbook have to say about the bottle? Well, they are basically empty jars or bottles made of glass. They weigh about 2 pounds, cost 2 gold pieces, and hold 1.5 pints of liquid. Alright, well, with that being the last item, and it being a technicality, it still counts as part of Link's inventory items. This is part 1 of episode 2. I had a lot of fun making this video. Part 2 is in the work, so follow and subscribe for notifications on when it will be coming out. But for now, you can catch me on Twitch playing retro games and newer titles, link in the description. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support. Have a great time zone. Stay frosty, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!